because they've become quite so turgid to watch this year, but so much winning. Just like Wigan, 2016 and 2018 sides weren't anywhere near as exciting as the 2010 to 2014 sides were. So I think it's the same sort of thing. If you flipped it around, we would be saying they were a scud, but because they've bored us in so many of the victories now, I kind of think they are a step behind the other great sides. Like David, you said last week, the 2006 side for you ranks above this era of side, and I agree.
So I still think that. I mean, there's been a big debate on the Saints Red V message board about which side would win in a battle between the 2006 side and the current team. I mean, I think if you go through the 2006 team, you'd say on paper, man for man, that was pretty much a better team. I mean, there are some stars in the Saints side and some young lads coming through, I think, are going to be future stars of the game.
But under current rules, with 6 again and touchlines not counting, I think this side would beat that side.
I think it's very possible. I think the only thing that I came down and said, I think this side would the 2006 side would find it very difficult to score against this Saints side. I think Jamie Lyon might just tip the balance for the 2006 team, and the fact that we had James Graham and people like that who would stand up. James Graham and his pomp was a better prop forward than Alex Walmsley is. Sorry, Big Al, I love you, but Graham and his pomp was a better forward. And we had Cunningham and Roby playing in 2006. I just think that side was a real exception in my lifetime. I doubt I'll see anything better in a Red V than that team. I still think I think this team deserves more respect than it's getting. I agree with Morgan Knowles on that. He said it after the game. I think rather like Leeds, when they were in their pomp and winning every year, it'll probably be another 5, 6 or 7 years before we are able to appreciate that this was one of the great sides. I don't think it's easy at the time to. I appreciate that Leeds side more now when we're not playing them next week than
shit.
Yeah. And Alan, I suppose tied into that, we know James Roby is going to be considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, in his position that's played in the modern era. Does this win, and maybe to some elements his performance in this game, he showed toughness and skill. Does this put Jonny Lomax into that conversation of one of the best in his position in the Super League history? Same for Makinson and Percival and Walmsley, of course.
I'm going to be slightly controversial here. No, Lomax for me is criminally overrated. I think he has consistently played behind an incredibly good pack, and that doesn't half help. So for me, he is a good player, but he's not a very good player because he hasn't. I don't know. There's just something about him. I just don't think he is a great player. In this current generation, if you're looking at players who are going to transcend and be kind of linked to kind of outside of Roby, I think you're looking at Walmsley for me. I think other ones are very good players, but they're not the creme de la creme, I would say. But for me, Walmsley and Roby are.
Fair enough. Predictions then. I went none out of one. David, you went 1 out of 1. I think we know why and how that came about. And the host Super Brew results explain it too, because David, you won it at the last by backing your own team last week, as Alan fell to second by making the honourable call of backing the French side. Sarah finished third, I finished fourth, and Tim finished last. In the main Super Brew, it was exciting, but Simon Lees held on in the final round to win by a very narrow margin. It was like 1.1 points or something, from John Locke in second and Craig the Repat Expat Cast fan in third. That's a very thorough, I would say, recap of the grand final and this disgraceful Saints side that we've had to suffer through for 3 seasons now.
You're going to have to suffer through again next year, Mark.
Well, we'll leave that conversation to next year, but I'm hoping it might be a bit different. But we've got some other very significant action to talk about, so we will move on to that now. Okay, we're into the other results then, but by no means are these, not significant results to talk about. And if it wasn't enough for me to travel across and watch one grand final where Saints won, I felt like I had to do it again on Sunday for some reason or another. When the women's grand final was played in front of 4,235 people, as Liam Moore's brother Aaron Moore was in control, and as were the St Helens side, as they finished 28 points to 0 winners against Leeds. We did get a couple of fan views in on this one. Do you want to give the first one, David?
Yes, I will. Pop the Vikings had a great advert for the women's game. The score doesn't reflect the game, and both teams should hold their heads up high. I agree with that.
And Mike Webb got in touch and said, out of the same stable, gallant Leeds performance but rock-solid defence followed by ruthless finishing was too much for them. Zoe Harris was superlative. Beautiful afternoon in the sun and perfect for recovering from the excesses on Saturday night. So proud of this club and how the players, staff and management go about representing the town.
Oh, Mike was there and he didn't say hello. That's a disappointment. But yeah, what did you make of this one, David?
Yeah, I mean, I think I felt a bit sorry for Leeds towards the end. The game just got away from them, and that can happen to any side. I thought the first half was quite tight. The try just before half time where Cunningham burst through and went the length was probably a killer. And Leeds never really got their heads back up and into the game in the second half. I thought it was a good advert for the game. I mean, Leeds had, in Courtney Winfield-Hill had the best kicker on the field without a shadow of a doubt. She's got a properly good kicking game. And, in people like Caitlin Beavers and Fran Goldthorpe, got a lot of experience on the part. But Saints have been really, really good all year and have put together an outfit that just really works very well. With Cunningham moving away from fullback and going into loose forward. And with all good sides, and this is a good side, if you've got a decent pack up front and, when you've got people like Chantal Crowell, and then off the bench, Paige Travis was superb, I thought, off the bench. Really ran the ball in hard. Then your backs and your skill positions can, make things tell, and they did in the end. Zoe Harris, I thought, was terrific. Her short kicking game was very good. And she got 2 tries. So for the season they've had, they deserved the clean sweep. But as I said, I did feel slightly sorry for the Leeds ladies because the game just got away from them a little bit in the second half.
Yeah, I think Zoe Harris got a bit of comment there. I think she started the game quite slowly. I thought she didn't quite find a kicking range until the sort of second half, but at that point she then really controlled her short kicking game. Was a bit soft, I think, early on, but she really improved as the game went on, and by the end of the second half she was just putting everything in the right position. I think, in fact, as the first half went on as well, she developed and she set up some tries, didn't she, in the end, Leah Burke's second try, I think, was off the back of her. Now, Amy Hardcastle was a threat. I was scared for Leeds every time she got the ball. She was the best comparison I can sort of make is she's kind of like Conrad Hurrell if Conrad Hurrell didn't drop the ball. Like, a centre
and if you ran straight instead of side to side.
Yeah, a centre who can run away from everyone or run over everyone, no matter what position the other person that they're going towards plays on the field. That's Amy Hardcastle, and she doesn't drop the ball. She was a powerhouse, obviously. Jodie Cunningham, her sin bin in a side, which was totally deserved. She stopped Viva La Beavers doing what she did in the 2018 Grand Final and taking a 20-metre tap and running all the way up the pitch, which I think she had a good shot at doing if Jodie Cunningham didn't deliberately delay her from doing that. But throughout the time that she was on the pitch in the first half, she kept making the first player miss or the second, half breaks were there, and it just all landed that she pulled it off a perfect. Made that half break into a full break and ran away and scored the try just before half time, which you quite rightly pulled out, David. I think Crowell and Travis were awesome, and Naomi Williams was better than I always sort of think she's maybe the one part of that Saints pack because is she big enough to be in the back row? Can she rough it up with some of the others? I think she stood up really well as well. I think all those players, all the forwards, but particularly Crowell, who played long minutes, and Travis, who did a lot of work in that second half, deserve singling out there. From the lead side, obviously we need to make mention for Sophie Nuttall, who did great stuff with 2 or 3 try savers in that first half, but in the second half there was a long. Was it in the second half? There was a long stoppage when she got injured.
Was it? It was in the second half. Yeah. She got hurt.
Yeah. So there was a long stoppage when she'd stopped another try. She saved a try. It was a great defence from her. Apparently, she has suffered sprained ligament damage in her neck, I think. Is the outcome after she spent the night in hospital. So all the best to her. Hope she recovers as quickly as possible and is back out there as the start of next season. So good luck to her in her recovery. I think it must be noted, but Saints were deserved winners. They absolutely controlled this match, and whilst you say Winfield Hill is a high caliber kicker, and they had some decent players as well. They just were behind Saints in every department in this game, I felt like.
Yeah. And so, clean sweep for the ladies. They won all 3 trophies that they could win. And I think the club's really proud of them. And we're looking forward to having the opportunity for them to parade the trophies with the fans somewhere at some stage. I'm not quite sure what the club's got in mind, but with having the Challenge Cup and the Super League trophy as well, there's 5 of the 6 trophies that could be won by the men and the women's game.
Yeah,
are sitting in the TW at the moment. So this is a great moment for the club, and we ought to make as much of it as we possibly can with the fans.
Of all the trophies that should have an asterisk next to it this year, it's probably that ladies' League Leaders Shield one. But and actually, whilst we're talking about trophies and stuff, I think so much of this event was well done. At the ground, it all seemed to run really smoothly, really well. They did stuff that I'd not noticed before at the previous women's grand finals. Maybe I'd just not noticed it rather than it didn't happen, but I don't remember it happening. But they had a singer out doing Jerusalem before the kick-off, just like we do in the men's grand final. And they had the flamethrowers and all of that sort of jazz. It felt like a real occasion. It really did. 4,200 or so was a good crowd. There was a good mix in the crowd. I certainly wasn't the only neutral in the crowd, There was others too, but it was largely people who were friends and family of the players, or other women's teams. People who, the Bradford ladies team was sat just in front of us. I saw some of the Cass and York players there as well, and that was just in the section I was sat in. So maybe across the rest of the stand there was people there. Sure,